was able to work with a lot of very big artists, such as Guns N' Roses, Cher, Aerosmith, The Stones, Elton John, Don Henley, Donna Summer, Nirvana, Prince, Bryan Adams, Sting. You work with artists like that and it becomes surreal. The music industry is very much a game. It's driven on egos, and sometimes you get the record executives that think they're bigger stars than the actual artists themselves. There's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of backstabbing more than others, because it's a high pressure industry that's literally driven on not what you did yesterday, not what you did today, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Today's just going to be a bit different for me. I'm sitting here with a man who spent 3 decades plus behind the scenes of the world's biggest artists, but now he's going to be stepping in front of the mic on his own new chapter in his life. Peter, I really appreciate you taking this time to sit down with me today, man. I really, really do appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Before we get into anything and how we actually met, I just kind of want to introduce the people to you. Give us a little bit about your history, what your background comes from, and you spent 30 plus years in the music industry. A lot of people don't realize what that's like. So, just tell us what you did, who you worked with, and just tell us where you came from, basically.
Not a problem. I hail from New York City, as you can probably tell from my accent, but I spent a good portion of my adult life living and working in Los Angeles. I started in New York working for record companies, and I eventually rose to the senior level at Geffen Records, EMI Records North America, and A&M Records. And I was very gifted. I was able to work with a lot of very big artists and a lot of up-and-coming artists and a lot of brand new artists, such as Guns N' Roses, Cher. I worked with Aerosmith, The Stones, Elton John, Don Henley, Donna Summer, Nirvana, Prince, Bryan Adams, Sting. The list is really long, John, and I tell you, it would take a whole entire podcast to name them all. But in short, if you named an artist, the chances are better than ever that I work with them at some point in my career.
When you say up and
Yeah.
coming artists and you say Guns N' Roses as an up and coming artist, that just kind of blew me away, because to think about that, how far back that went.
Well, I literally was with Guns N' Roses from day one, from the inception, the signing of the band. And it's interesting because that band had everything going against it. They were volatile, they were insane, they were difficult to manage. As a matter of fact, we couldn't find a manager for them, but eventually we did. But they weren't the particular sound that radio was looking for at that time. They were very, very different. But diligence paid off, hard work paid off. And, you always say, let the audience be the judge. And they decided, and they wanted Guns N' Roses, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. Wow. So kind of in that world, I won't make you go through all the list of names, of course, like you said, that would take forever, but kind of if you had to just say one of the biggest things that you took away, that you learned from that experience in your life, what would you say that it would be? Something that most people wouldn't think about.
Well, it's very easy, and it's been the case in my career, to work an artist that's already established. In other words, you work for a company and Michael Jackson signed to the roster, and, he's already a superstar. So, you're just picking up where he basically left off and you're working on a new project. But the most rewarding thing is taking something from its inception, giving birth to it. And I like to say Guns N' Roses would be that best example, because in essence, they gave birth to the music and we gave birth to the career. And when you have an artist or a band rather, such as Guns N' Roses, like I said, there was a lot of shortcomings. There were a lot of hurdles. There was a lot of resistance that I personally think that most record companies and many people would have given up on very early on. But we believed, and we just fought for everything. And the end result is it paid off. And here we are, 2026, and they're out there touring still. So, like I said, it had everything going against it, and it was brand new. And that's the most rewarding part of my career and lesson that I learned. And I plan on taking that. And I think I would encourage people, if you're looking to start a podcast in particular, that you start from the bottom and you work and you build it and you build it and you build it. That's the way you get longevity. That's the way you get credibility.
100%. And you saw that firsthand with Guns N' Roses, and even coming in, with people that are already established, but just, bringing out a new record. You have to just take that leap of faith. And that's just a huge piece of advice. So thank you for, putting that one out there. And we're going to definitely get into your new podcast venture here in a minute. But I want to delve a little bit more about the music industry. So what would you say, like, if the average listener who right now is probably seeing this video, or going to hear it, and they're going, wow, okay, this is interesting. You've got John, who he's been doing this for a little while now, but he's still kind of a nobody, and he's talking to Peter Napoliello out here, who's been doing this for 30 plus years. So tell us something that most people would think about with the music industry, but probably get it completely wrong.
Whoa, the music industry, that's a loaded question. The music industry is a very, very interesting world. It's manipulative in many respects, it's fabricated in many respects, but I was fortunate enough to work with a group of executives and companies in particular, one being a guy named David Geffen, which was enlightening and rewarding because it wasn't necessarily about the profits. It was giving the artists their freedom to do what they want. We didn't dictate, we didn't control, we didn't really pull the strings as much as most companies do. A lot of records today would be a perfect example. It's producer driven, it's, songwriters, not the artist writing the songs. But I was gifted in that respect. And, when you work with artists of that caliber, and I'll be honest, I mean, I had no idea that I was going to be in this business. I fell into it because I loved music so much. I was a frustrated guitar player. I wasn't a great guitar player, and I knew I never was going to make it in that arena. But I started at the bottom, literally at the bottom, and I chipped away and chipped away. And with the hard work and the responsibility and the discipline, rewards come. And when you work with artists that you grew up on, for instance, I was a kid watching Cher on the Sonny and Cher show, and here I am working with her, bringing back her career because she was already established as a singer and she had crossed over into films. And she kind of put music to the side and she wanted to make a comeback. And radio had changed. There was a whole new audience out there that didn't know her for her music. They knew her for her film career. So, you work with artists like that and it becomes surreal. Aerosmith, of course, the Rolling Stones. I remember reading the back of their liner notes when I was a kid and seeing the pictures in all the magazines. And all of a sudden you find yourself in the room with them. But you do learn, John. They're just like me and they're just like you. I was fortunate enough. I was raised by a father who taught me very early on, your job does not define who you are. Never let the job give you the ego. So I went through this career pretty much grounded, humble, and I didn't cast judgment. I believe that everybody was equal, and it paid off for me in many respects because I didn't play the game. And the music industry is very much a game. It's driven on egos, and sometimes you get the record executives that think they're bigger stars than the actual artists themselves. And there's a lot of insecurity. There's a lot of backstabbing more than others because it's a high pressure industry that's literally driven on not what you did yesterday, not what you did today, what are you going to do tomorrow? And everything is urgent because if you think about it, radio, which isn't as prevalent today as streaming is, but back when I was in it, radio was the key factor in breaking artists. Radio can only play a certain amount of records during the course of a day. They got to depend on advertising and they got to sell ad space, and that's what makes them money. So when you're out there with 50 other records on any given week from different companies and different bands, and some are better than the others, you got to fight for that slot at radio, and that is pressure. So you got to be a little bit different than your competition. You have to zig when they zag, as I like to say, and you have to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. But more importantly, John, you got to have credibility. In other words, your word has to be golden, because if you burn a radio station and make them play a stiff record, the next time you come in with something else, your chances are going to be a little bit more difficult. So it's a relentless game that takes persistence, very little sleep. But on the upside, it's a fun business because you're working with music, which is something, I like to say it governs your heartstrings and governs your emotions, and not too many forms of art do that these days. And so when you're working with that and you're traveling and you're going to concerts, and, you don't have to wear a suit to work, you can wear jeans and a t-shirt. That's me. So, I find it rewarding in that respect as well. But like anything in life, it's got its pluses and it's got its minuses. But the most important thing you have to do is look at it at face value and just love what you do.
100%. That's the yeah. You said that right off the rip. Love what you do. And that's what I talk about a lot with my Amplify program is, you know, if you're starting, the music industry is completely, different, but if you're starting on YouTube or you're starting on social media and you're not doing something that you love, you're going to burn out really quick, because if you don't love it, it's going to take a while to get an audience. It's going to take a while for people to understand who you are, for that authority to show. And if you're waiting on, monetization from YouTube or something, if you don't love what you're talking about, don't start ever. But on that note, so you were talking about the radio industry a little bit, and you've got a very distinct radio voice. Before now, when you're talking about getting into the podcast world, did you ever get on this side of the mic? Were you working a radio station?
It's interesting because I've worked with radio stations my whole career. In other words, I went to every radio station in the country. And when I first met you, I had, you mentioned that you were from Ohio, and I said WMMS in Cleveland, and you knew it. I knew all the jocks. And yeah, I worked with a lot of radio stations, but I never actually did a radio show. It wasn't until I retired, John, and I moved to this part of the world, Estonia now, that I was able to do a radio show here. And I had never done a radio show. And it's interesting because I didn't know how to work a board. I didn't know what the fundamentals were in doing a presentation, front announcing a record, back announcing a record, and I was literally thrown into it. The minute I walked into this position, I said, "Oh, great. Can I meet my producer now? Can I meet my engineer?" And they go, "You are both." And I go, "Wait a minute. I got to work the board." And they go, "Yeah, you got 2 days to figure it out." So, you say I have a radio voice. That was a gift from God. I didn't train for that. That came late in my life. And I did a radio show here on Radio 2 for 6 years. And it was called Mindbender, because what I did, John, I did something a little bit different than the norm. Um, Years ago, when I was in university, I was a disco DJ. And I was playing records in a lot of big clubs in New York City, and I learned how to mix records, beat match, and put records together where it was continuous and build and build and build. So when I started my radio show here, I used the same concept of mixing records, but I did it differently. I took genres. For instance, I took a record from the 60s and I mixed it into a punk rock song, into a heavy metal song, into Barbra Streisand, into a soundtrack, hence the name Mindbender. But John, it worked. It worked, and it shows that there doesn't have to be formats. Music is music. It blended together beautifully. It worked. So you could hear the Singing Nuns right into the Sex Pistols, Anarchy for the UK, into something completely different.
Yeah.
And it really, really worked. And I developed a really, really good audience base. And now I'm doing that show on Mixcloud, which is a platform which enables me to do it because you don't have to pay artist royalties. That you can get it through. It's funded through there. So you can't do it through Spotify. You have to use Spotify's music,
Licensing.
etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had a lot of fun doing that. So that's my radio background. Never did it, but it's important. And I think it's important to say in this podcast, you do what you love. You start from scratch. You don't get frustrated. Never say never. Never say die has always been my mantra. And if I started out with 2 listeners, so what? I am having a good time. 3 listeners, 4 listeners, 5 listeners, a year goes by, you got more, you build, you build, you build. That's it.
That's awesome. Now, so I'm probably going to blindside you with this. So you were on the back end and you were talking about, hitting their times and for the ad agencies and all of that stuff. And now you're thrown into the mix and you're doing it all and you're on the mic and you're mixing everything up. Did you get a whole new respect for those people that you were working with way back then? Because again, you just kind of got thrown to the wolves. You knew what needed to be done back then, but you hadn't actually done it. Did you get a whole new respect for them?
Absolutely, especially radio DJs. I thought these guys just get on the radio and they talk and they play music. That is an art. You have to be on, you've got to be in good spirits, you've got to be in a good mood, your voice has to be on point. And these guys are sometimes in the States, at least, they're doing 3, 4, 5 hour shifts. And, you don't know what their day started out, how they got up in the morning, if they're rushed to get their kids to school, if, it wasn't a good night's sleep, whatever. You have to literally put on a face. So, and plus that pressure of sounding good and making sure that show runs smoothly. I had a whole new respect for DJs now. I like to say I crossed over to the dark side. I tell a lot of my friends, I'm on your side of the fence now. But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, before we move on to the next part in your journey, I want to ask one question because I think it'll be interesting for people listening and watching. And so I don't know if you can name names, and if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. But is there an artist or a big name that you maybe dealt with in that past life, in that 30+ year career, that you went into a meeting thinking one way, and then you met them and you were like, wow, I'm shocked at the person that I'm talking with?
Yeah, many, exactly. Actually, um, a guy that I was familiar with, but I wasn't, necessarily the biggest fan, was Peter Gabriel. I knew of his history, of course, with Genesis, but when I actually got to work with him, we worked on the So album, and that he had that hit Sledgehammer, and we had all those great videos and In Your Eyes, and really, really remarkable songs. That was a great project. When he hit the stage, John, the guy was out of his mind. But the minute he's off the stage, he's quiet, he's humble, he's a completely different person. Serene would be a good description. So that was something that I really enjoyed and learned. And then there were others. Maybe I don't want to name one name in particular, but he wrote some of the most beautiful love songs anybody could imagine with a superstar group. And all he did was whine and complain. The water's too wet, the sky's too blue. And you look at him and you say, you write the greatest lyrics under the sun, and here you are angry and grouchy like a grumpy old man every day. But that happens too. And, people are people. But it's an interesting dynamic. It's definitely a case study if you want to look at different artists. And then there's some of the artists that, they're brand new per se, and they come to you and you forge a good friendship and a good relationship, and they're willing to go to the call of duty to get out there and meet people and call radio stations and do interviews, etc. But the minute that record goes gold or platinum, it all goes out the window. The egos go through the roof. They alienate people. They don't want to do anything anymore. They become total assholes. And there's a lot of them too. And some people just can't handle the success. And sadly, John, there's also the influence. When you're at a certain level, you're surrounded by what they call yes men. Everybody tells them yes, everybody enables them. Enter drugs. And I've seen drugs ruin a lot of brilliant artists, a lot of great people. So it has an interesting dynamic there as well.
So I'll tell you, you mentioned the drug piece. I'm not going to mention his name or what band, but at a point I was working for Enterprise early in my younger days, and I was a branch manager at one of our stores. And I just took over the store, and I kept noticing one of our car wash guys, our detailers. I'm like, man, he looks so familiar. I don't know why this guy looks so familiar. And then finally, I don't know, maybe I was there a week, and one of the other employees said, you know who is washing your car right now. And I said, nobody looks familiar. Like, how do I know him? And then they told me, and I'm like, no, there's no way. So then I Google a picture because I know what the guy looks like, but then I have to put two and two together, and I'm sitting there looking on my screen, and I'm like, oh, we'll talk off the podcast on this, but I'm like, no, this is not true. So then finally I got up the nerve and I just had to say, are you? And he goes, yeah. And then he told me the whole story, drugs. And then he got, pushed out of the group, and they're still kind of out doing their thing, but he's not part of them anymore. He went from women, drugs, partying on MTV, his songs in a lot of movies. And now he was washing cars for me for $8 an hour.
Seen that movie many times, and it's tragic. And let's look at the ones we lost early. Kurt Cobain. People are driven by fears and anxiety and a lot of other things. And it's sad. It's really a tragic road to go down. I was fortunate. I grew up in New York City, so I saw the ramifications of drugs and, abuse with alcohol very early on as a kid. So when I reached my teen years, I didn't have peer pressure. I didn't go down that road, and I never drank alcohol or did drugs my entire life. Considering I'm in the music business working with some of the craziest, wildest artists, I was clean and sober the whole time. And it helped me a lot. And you know what? It opened eyes too for a lot of people, because they would look at you and say, wow, look at him. He's really on point. He's having fun, and he's not doing any drugs, and he's not drinking. So maybe I can try that too. I will never forget, I had a conversation with Jerry Garcia once from the Grateful Dead. And we were talking about some of the bands I was working. I was backstage at a show. And he was a great guy. I mean, very accessible. I loved Garcia. And he goes, and he mentioned, he goes, yeah, you must get some really, really good stuff, huh? And I go, Jerry, I don't even drink. If I drank one beer, you'd have to carry me out of the venue. He goes, I can dig it, man. You're just not good in that space. you know? So yeah, I got a lot of stories, John, and that's what I'm going to get into in my podcast.
That's well, we're going to get to that here about 2 seconds. I do have one last question, just because I have a friend who is in the a smaller movie business, and he had a small role on Walking Dead, and so I have to ask. You're in the music industry. You're out in LA. How do you end up in an episode of The Sopranos?
Interesting. Great story. Again, this is one of the reasons why I'm going to do the podcast. Is I've been asked so many times to write a book. And I always felt, you know what? I don't think people are interested in my life. But I think people might be interested in stories, the things that I've experienced. And I think it would be better to be told in discussion form rather than reading form. What happened was I retired relatively early from the music business. I knew early on in my life that I was going to work to a certain point, build enough equity where I can just say, the hell with it. And I want to travel, and I want to live my life the way I want to live. I didn't want to clock in. I didn't want to deal with the pressure. And I did. I retired at 47, and I moved to the island of Bermuda. And on Bermuda, I wore the same shorts and the same T-shirt every day, and I rode a little Vespa motor scooter, and I started writing. And what I did was I wrote a screenplay. John, I'd never written anything in my life before. And I wrote a screenplay about what I knew, the music business. It was a story. And a lot of it was predicated on real life experience, but I put it on a format called Final Draft, which is a software package that you write professional screenplays on. And I didn't think anything of it. And I ended up going to New York about 2 years later, and I was at a convention for IT specialists. And this is the time when Napster was happening and MP3.com was happening. And I ran into a guy that was on a panel discussion who was from Australia, and he had an internet company, and he knew a lot of hedge fund people. We struck up a conversation. I was telling him about my background, and he says, interesting. And I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I just wrote a script all about it. He goes, would you mind if I read it? Now, I remember in the music business, everybody would come up to you and they'd say, hey, can you listen to my kid's tape? And, oh, okay, and somebody hands you a tape. I would listen, but a lot of times it just goes into a drawer, into the trash. So I gave this guy this script expecting nothing. He calls me 3 days later and he says, "This script is great." And I go, "You really think so?" He goes, "Yeah. Would you mind if I gave it to my friend, Ed Pressman?" And I go, "Edward R. Pressman?" He goes, "Yeah." Edward R. Pressman is a very famous film producer. He produced at least 70 to 80 films, some of the best movies you've ever seen, including Wall Street with Oliver Stone and Charlie Sheen. He did the Crow movies. He did so many of the really, really tasteful movies. And I said, absolutely. I said, interesting enough, I wrote this screenplay in the vein of Wall Street, where Wall Street was an expose about the corruption and manipulation, Gordon Gekko of the stock market. And this was basically pulling the sheets off the music business to see what's laying in bed. Yeah, I said, absolutely give it to him. And I wasn't expecting anything again. 3 weeks, I get a phone call from Edward Pressman's office. They want to have a meeting. So I go, I take the meeting, and to make a long story short, they love the script, and they ended up optioning it where they take the script, they give you a fee, it's exclusively for them, and they shop it. They try to get it produced, they try to get it made. In the process, when I first got into the music business, I felt that it was important that I understand what musicians and what artists do, how they think. So I had to learn my way around the recording studio. I had to speak their language. So I said, okay, if I'm going to be in the movie business now, I've got to understand what actors do. I enrolled in a little acting school in Greenwich Village, New York. I started taking some acting classes, and I said, interesting. It was like therapy almost. It was literally like therapy. They raise your emotions. You're doing things. I never had any idea. And it's interesting because while I was in the music business in LA, there wasn't a day when I would get phone calls from agents. My actor, Keanu Reeves or Johnny Depp or Robert Downey Jr., they want to go see a show. Can you hook them up with tickets? These guys would walk into my office, literally hang out, talk. They ended up becoming friends too. But I never, John, wanted to be an actor. So I took some acting classes. Then I said, all right, I want to know what it feels like to get rejected. I want to know what the casting process feels like. Now, me, I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. I have a name that I don't want to change, Napoliello, that people can't spell, no less pronounce, with the exception of you, my friend. You said it perfectly the first time. We'll get into that. So I call casting directors cold. I get their numbers. I call them cold. Usually you have to have an agent call. You have to be solicited. And I'm getting these people on the phone. Now, because I knew how to communicate with radio, talking to them about music, I made a good presentation. And I talked my way into auditions. And I would go into auditions with a headshot, not being an actor, having maybe 2 months worth of acting classes under my belt. And I was booking. I booked Law and Order 2 times. I got to work with director Sidney Lumet, who did Dog Day Afternoon and a lot of big Al Pacino movies, Serpico. He booked me for a TV show that he was directing called 100 Center Street. And then I get a phone call that the Sopranos is having an open call. Would I go in and read for that? I went in. I met with David Chase and Georgianne Walken, who's Christopher Walken's wife, and another girl named Sheila Jaffe. They were the casting people. And they ended up giving me a part. And they said, this is a recurring role. You might have as many as 6, 7 episodes, which means you'd have to live in New York for 6 months. I said, I can't. I'm in LA. I don't want to move to New York. And I turned it down. But I got the one, I got the credit, and I got a Screen Actors Guild card from it because it was a speaking part. So, that was it for me there. I had no interest in being an actor, and I just wanted this movie to be made. And we met with a lot of directors, including Oliver Stone, and they have something called development hell in that industry where you can have a script in development or a movie in development for years before it gets made. In the music business, you make a record, you put it out, you're in business, you're going. So that became really, really frustrated. And eventually it reverted back to me, and it's in my hands right now. So at some point in my life, I'll readdress it and maybe I'll take meetings with Netflix and who knows, maybe we'll finally get made. But yeah, that's the story about that. But an interesting point too, here, something that I have no experience in, something that I'm interested in, something that taps on your shoulder and you could apply it to anybody out there that's watching this podcast that wants to do a podcast. Go for it. You never know. Who the heck am I? I'm no given talent. I'm like everybody else. But you take a leap of faith and you believe and you try. And more importantly, John, you just don't give up.
That's key. And wow, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that. And you've kind of, you hit on, why you want to start your podcast and the things you want to do with it. Do you have a vision for it where you would like to take it, maybe to help bring that movie to light? Because I hope to God you get that thing listed on Netflix or something, because I would love to see it, just because there's so many great stories that sound like that can come through that. Do you have a vision for the podcast, kind of where you want to see it eventually go?
Well, I do. I am in the preliminary stages now. Like I have a home recording studio. During COVID, they shut down the building where we were doing the studio. So I put in a home studio and I was doing a lot of my radio pre-production work here. And recently put a cameras in, some lighting, and I met you through this too. So I'm in the process of putting it all together. But yeah, my concept is what I'm going to be doing is I'm thinking about some working titles. I've got a few in mind. I'm not set on that yet, but I don't want it to be too catchy. I want it to be music driven, but I want it to be about the stories about turning unknowns into stars and stars into superstars, and then speak with managers, record company people, promotion people, radio people, and get the stories really how Van Halen broke, or how Prince really cracked through, or how Bruce Springsteen, they recently just did his movie, of course, but things of that genre. And I'm going to get to the hit makers and the idol makers that were behind the scenes, so to speak. And a lot of it's salacious stuff. A lot of it needs to be told. And there's a lot of people right now that are in their senior twilight of their life that want to start talking now. And I think it will be really, really interesting and fun and very provocative. But it's like anything else, you're just a brand new baby. You show up and all of a sudden you pop up on a platform and there you are. And how are people going to find you? Which led me to doing a lot of research on what software I wanted to use, what platform I wanted to use. And let me tell you, John, I researched them all. And something hit me, Riverside grabbed me, and my girlfriend never did a podcast. And she decided in January she was going to do a podcast. And she's got 4 under her belt so far. And I turned her on to Riverside. She subscribed right away to the pro version. She's up and running. She's not a tech person at all. She's doing all the editing. And believe me, when I get kicking off, which will be soon, she's going to be very much a part of like walking me through a lot of the things. And thankfully, John, that's how I found and got to meet you. And I think you're a tremendous asset and a valuable asset. And I like to pride myself on finding good talent. That's always been my niche. Not only recording artist, not only lyricist, but executive timber as well. And I saw one of your videos and I was immediately taken. It pulled me in. And, when I was in the record business, I didn't just look for talent, John. I looked for people who could deliver under pressure. There's a lot of engineers, producers, and consultants out there, but very few that can step in, diagnose a problem quickly, and actually fix it. And fortunately, I found that with you because I had a question. And I had questioned in one of your videos, and you not only answered it quickly, but you said my name, pronounced it perfectly, which really grabbed me because that's something that a lot of people trip over. Too many vowels in that name. And then afterwards, I had contacted you via email, and you got back to me right away. And that to me spoke volume. And that's always been the same filter that I used in the music business. And, it's a reputation versus proven results.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. And just for anybody watching or listening, I want to kind of fill in the blanks there a little bit, because I think this is a valuable lesson for anybody starting on YouTube, podcasting, any form of video and audio that you're going to be starting. Your comment section. We watch YouTube and we see everybody go, oh, leave a comment. And, I've left comments and you don't hear anything. You don't even see a response. Or if you do, it's an AI. You could tell it's a quick, rapid response. Pay attention to your comment section. Peter, when you left your comment and it was just simply about, hey, I've got the Elgato teleprompter, I've got Riverside, I don't see what you're showing on here. I don't see how that's working. I'm trying that and it's not working. The layers, once I put up the software, I can't use the teleprompter. Instead of me just going, oh yeah, here's how it goes, and responding, I've made a video. Why? Because if you're asking that question, Peter, how many people else out there are probably asking the same question? I didn't know who you were from Adam. I happened to do what I thought would be a cool gesture to you and just throw your comment up and say, hey, I made this video because Peter Napoliello had asked this question. Thank you for so much for asking the question, and I hope this helps. And then I tagged you and went back with it. I had no clue that we were going to build this relationship. I had no clue we were going to have a working relationship. I had no clue of any of it. I was just doing what I felt was the right way to do business, especially when I'm trying to help people. So kind of what I just want everybody listening to this to understand. Your comment section is a gold mine. Do not ignore it. I get it. One day we all hope to get to where we've got, the golden play button and you've got millions of subscribers, and maybe, just maybe at that point, you can't even answer them all. But go in there, set a time, once a week, whatever, and just filter them and just try to answer as many as you can personally. Don't hit AI responses, because YouTube tries to let you, hey, thank you so much, quick. No, answer them, because you don't know. You never know. Your movie, you put your treatment out there. You don't realize who's going to reach out to you. It's the same thing. You don't know when that right place, right time is going to walk in on you. So I didn't want to get off topic there, but that was a great segment to bring that into. And I just would like our listeners to understand that you don't know who's listening. You could have 5 people. You could click onto YouTube or go into your Spotify account or whatever and see it only got 5 views. And one of those 5 might be your next opportunity. So thank you for, bringing that in.
In the case with you, John, and I'll be honest from the heart, I work with a lot of big people who had big names, but they couldn't execute when it mattered. And when I contacted you, what stood out to me was not just what you said, but how quickly you delivered the solution. There is credibility, efficiency equals money. And I'm not looking at monetarily, but that's just a business acronym, and in the music business, studio time's expensive. Every hour lost to technical issues costs money, momentum, So you have to approach podcasting in the same way. If something isn't working, I need someone who can fix it now, not after a long back and forth. And you were Johnny on the spot. You hit it up right away. We got to my solution, and one thing led to another. And here we are having this conversation right now.
Awesome. And again, I can't thank you enough for the kind words, and even for just being on today recording. This means a lot. I guess my next question that I would love to ask while we're talking about, building your podcast that you're about to do and your girlfriend's podcast that she's launching. You reached out because you had a frustration, right? You had a moment when you had a hurdle. Is there a point where, even though you've been in the music industry for all of these years and you've got contacts and all that, is there a point where, up until now, when you've got contact with me and we can make it work no matter what, but was there a point when you said, man, I'm probably not going to do this. This is going to be too hard to do solo. I just screw it. Did you have one of those moments?
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting to say that because, one thing about running late record companies, you're protecting the creative process. And the worst thing you can do is let technical issues interrupt momentum. I am not tech savvy at all. I'll be honest with you. I'm a boomer. I can't point and click, John, but I chose someone who understands that. And I like to choose people, that are invisible so the content can shine. And it's that person, the Wizard of Oz behind the screen. And like what you're set out to do, or what you're doing right now, is you're filling a void for a lot of people out there that aren't tech savvy like myself. And like I said, when we're dealing with specialists versus general people, some of the biggest wins come from hiring specialists, not generalists. So when I needed something done at a high level, I went to someone who lives and breathes in that space. And that's how exactly I approach things in finding you with Riverside. And for me, Riverside is it. I'm not going anywhere else. I will be signing up. I'm going to be contacting them because I want to find out if I can do, I believe it's the business program where I
Yes.
can share with my girlfriend. I don't want to use her account. I like to play by the rules.
Yeah,
But
you can definitely upgrade hers to the business program, and then you can have your studio and her studio, and then that'll also give you the ability to bring in an editor to help you out.
well, that's it, John. Look, trust is built through experience, my friend.
Nah,
And,
nah,
believe me,
that was
we'll
all
be not.
joking. No.
No, we'll be knocking on your door. And I think that's important that your listeners understand this, because they might just think I'm just rambling on and on and on. What I'm getting to is you are an asset. So I'd like to tell anybody that's out there watching this, use John, because
Thank you.
John is good. And I like to say that I know what I'm talking about. I'd made decisions involving millions of dollars and major artists. So I trust my instincts when I see competence. And I look for clarity, confidence, and consistency. And that's what I found in you, John.
Yeah, there's another acronym that I love, and you being in the music industry, this will kind of resonate. But the KISS method: keep it simple, stupid. And you'd made that comment when we first talked about the feeling of the door wide open, or that I'm teaching my grandmother how to turn the auxiliary back to the TV. That's how I teach. I've watched so many videos, and you saw this, and we spoke about this, where you're watching, and we won't drop any names, but you're watching some of these videos and they're talking technical jargon. And if you've been in the industry for a long time, sure, and it sounds impressive that they're talking this way. I got nothing out of it. It didn't help me a bit because I got lost. And that's why when I first fell into this, and Riverside was such a huge part of me getting started, because they make it so simple. And I decided, you know what? I had a couple hurdles that I got lucky, because Riverside was really good to reach out to me and say thank you for a few things, and we've had a working relationship through the Riverside community on Facebook. And but I decided, look, I had a couple hurdles. I want people to see it easy, so I'm going to dumb it down, and I'm going to talk about the easiest software in the world, in my opinion, and how to make it even easier. So no, thank you so much for everything there. That's just huge. And um, I guess my next question is for you, and not that we want to do an infomercial for Riverside, but you'd mentioned that you started with the OBSs of the world, and all of the other things. I guess we'll give them one last plug, and then we'll move on. If you had to say one major thing, and we know simplicity is probably going to be the answer, but if you had another way to put it, between all the other chaos out there in Riverside, what would you say it would be?
It enables you to put together a workflow where you don't want to have to solve a problem once. You want to solve it permanently. And that's one of the reasons why I like Riverside, because it just doesn't fix it, it improves how you operate. There's a big difference there. And like you mentioned, I went through OBS, I went through all of them. And the one that stuck was Riverside. And I went back. It was like a hit record to me. You hear it, you know it's a winner, you stick with it. And not only that, John, their IT department, they get back to you pretty quickly. and they help us a lot. They helped my girlfriend a couple of times, and I think that's pretty impressive too. These days you can't get anybody on the phone; everything is done through automation. But I'm a big fan of this company, and I put them at the top of my list, up and above everything else that's out there. And there are a lot of other influences out there that have big shows and big followings, and they're rattling off. I cut right through it. A lot of it's hype, a lot of it's, influence through backdoor channels, whatever it might be. There are a lot of opinions and a lot of experts out there, but what I value is a platform that cuts through that and gets straight to what actually works. And for me, that's Riverside. And I haven't even scratched the surface yet, John. I'm just watching what my lady does. I've seen what you do. I'm playing around with it right now, and I'm liking what I see. And it's enabling me and giving me the confidence that I can do something.
Well, I can tell you with utmost confidence because I'm beta testing right now and I can't talk about too much, but it's only going to get better. And all the people out there who are really big into Final Cut and DaVinci and stuff, I think that it's going to win them over here real soon. So continue to learn, but it's only going to get better. Um, and for anybody who is listening, if you're looking to get into this, I recommend even before you go and download it, go on to Facebook. Kendall is their social media expert. She's got a great Facebook community, the Riverside creators community. Just go in there and just there's all of us in there. You actually recommended a gentleman to me that I worked with the other day. So yeah, just jump into the community. There's so many of us in there. Christy's another one that it helps a lot of people out. And I think that Riverside has made it really easy for you to get the answers from either other creators just like yourself, or from them. Also, she's on there regularly answering questions too. So
yeah, cool. They seem like they can troubleshoot in real time and keep things moving, which is really important for the creative process. I don't like downtime. It's like being in the recording studio. Downtime, you lose momentum. So it seems at every level that platform is humming and they're running on all cylinders, which is I was very impressed by.
They're still relatively young.
Yeah, well, the efficiency, the clarity, and the results, there's no guesswork, no wasted time, just solutions. And that's what they're giving you right now. And I'm really impressed with that. So,
yeah,
I give them high standards.
Awesome. Let me ask you, so if you had to, I'm just going to, I want you to name 5. I'm going to put you on the spot and you're probably going, man, I wish you wouldn't throw this at me. But if you had to give me 5 dream, and it could be, I know you're going to talk mostly music industry, but anybody in that world, from, disc jockeys to people in the music industry to, full bands or whatever. If you had the top 5, your Mount Rushmore of 5 guests that, if you get those 5 and those 5 only, you'd be a happy man when you start your podcast.
Well, it's going to go into different categories. And rather than name names, I would want to go for one of the top tier managers that managed a lot of big bands. One guy that comes to mind is David Krebs. David Krebs was a partner with a guy named Steve Lieber, and during the 1980s, they had everybody. They had Aerosmith, they had the New York Dolls, they had AC/DC, they had Def Leppard, they had Ted Nugent. These guys were juggling 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the biggest artists at that given time. And they also got involved with a lot of big tours. So I think that's imperative that people know those stories that were behind how those artists broke, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, so to speak. Then I'd like to get on another side of the fence, maybe some therapists that had to really sit down and walk these people through, the ramifications of success and how to deal with it. And there are therapists. Then I'd like to go with some lawyers and talk about the legal aspect, because there's a lot of times when you'll hear artists say, well, I got ripped off and I got this. No, you didn't get ripped off. You got out negotiated. Your manager, your lawyers, they weren't in tune. They didn't represent you at the best level they could. They made shitty deals for you, but you didn't get ripped off. And too many artists cry the blues. I don't know if you had a better lawyer. So I'd like to get that as another group of talking heads. I'd like to get some artists themselves to find out what they feel inside. What was the inspiration behind some of their songs, the ups and downs, the real thing that happens with success. How do you handle it? How do you manage a relationship if you have wife and kids and you're out there on the road touring? Good example would be John Bon Jovi. This guy and his band, they toured year after year after year, and he's with the same girl, and who's his wife now, since he was a teenager. And this guy looks like a god from Mount Olympus, and women chasing him all over the place. He was a MTV darling. If he didn't sell 10 million records, he sold 20 million posters. So I would like to get that angle. And then, of course, the promotional aspect, the executive level. So I want to be all encompassing. I just don't want it to be a one trick pony. I want it to be the unveiling of every aspect of how that business works right up to today, and how the streaming platforms work, and how it works today with sponsorship now, where a lot of artists don't make big money off of royalties off of record sales anymore. It's done through touring, and of course it's sponsors, it's product endorsement, and it's streaming. John, back in the day, if we did $800,000 in a fiscal year, we were popping the champagne, and the electric bill was going to be paid for the next 3 years. Today, with streaming, the quarterly, not yearly, not annual numbers, the quarterly numbers are in the billions, with less executives, less marketing spend. All you do is upload, send it out to the platforms, and let it go, and it goes global. So you don't have to worry about distribution. You don't have to worry about anything. And the money that's being made today is just astronomical. And that's why you see some of these young artists that have maybe a 1 or 2 year career, they're running $200, $300, $400 million 5 years into their career. Unheard of. So I'd like to get that side in as well.
Yeah, I'll ask you this because as an outsider, and it completely baffled me. I remember going to the record stores and picking up my, from the old days of the cassettes to the CDs to, I never really well, my dad had the 8-track player and the record player at our house, but I was, into the days of the cassettes and rewinding them with your pencils and all that fun stuff. But when everything went digital and you went to, okay, you're going to pay Apple $10 a month and you're going to stream everything they've got, right? It hit me like, how are they going to make money doing this? It makes no sense because, the album is this much per album. Da, 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 da. So that's from me being the outsider looking in. I know I know it took off, and I know that they're making Godsmack money. But from that side of it, when that conversion was happening, where did you guys think? Did it sound like it is going to be like it is today, or was there some concern there? Or
yeah, there was a lot of worry. As a matter of fact, when the inception of the MP3 came on board, and you remember Napster, it took the wind out of the sails of every record company, and nobody wanted to embrace it because nobody really understood it. And the record industry was in dire straits for a long time. A lot of people didn't see the resurrection. And along comes this guy from Sweden, Daniel Ek, who had Spotify, and he was taking a lot of meetings with executives out in the Los Angeles area, top tier executives. Nobody at first bit, but eventually a couple of people saw the light, and look where it is today. It's the only game in town. You go right to Spotify, and, the marketing meetings, we used to count how many radio stations, how many spins we were getting from the DJs. And now it's how many streams, and you're talking billions, and you're talking viral. It's a whole new language. It's like Swahili to old school guys like me. But it's interesting. It's an interesting paradigm, and the business model today is completely different. And, it's the thing that really, really concerns me, though, is the longevity of a lot of the artists. A lot of them come in and out, and the music fluctuates so quickly. You don't have the 10, 15, 20, 30, 40-year careers. in sight like we did when we had The Who, Led Zeppelin, the Stones, whoever's still around today. It seems to be like a 5-year cycle and then it spins over and changes. And look, we haven't even scratched the surface with AI yet. So that's a whole nother movie right there, which is going to change everything.
Yeah, I hope that there's a revolt though when it starts when because I'm seeing it already where they're, use AI to create music. Look, there's some artists out there who, this is their livelihood. This is what they've done for years. I hope that us, the human being, person to person engagements, I hope that we revolt when it comes to that point because I can see the benefits of using it, on the editing side. It helps speed things up a little bit and stuff like that. But when it comes to replacing that artist, it still scares me.
Well, my personal opinion about AI is I'm embracing it the way I embraced something called the Lindrum, which was the drum machine that came out back in the late 70s, early 80s. It made musicians crazy. What? This Lindrum? It's taken away drums. You use it as a working tool. The same thing with the synthesizer. When the synthesizer came on board, a lot of people revolted. The interesting thing about AI is I like artists that have a vision, emotions. AI doesn't have that. A perfect example would be if you gave AI a treatment for a movie, it would spit out one movie. But if you gave that treatment to 5 different movie directors, you would get 5 different movies. So, one thing about art, I don't think you should do things for the masses. I think you should do things for what you like. And if the masses love it, great. That's what it's always been about. You stay true to your heart because, John, it's your DNA, it's your thumbprint, and it's unique and different than everybody else's out there. And that's what really separates you from the rest of the pack. Otherwise, you're a one trick pony and you're just another cog in the wheel, as they say. And that's when things become mundane. It becomes background music. And the same thing I think holds true with podcasts. I think podcasts have to be original. Don't try to do what everybody else is doing. Be an individual. Have your own ideas, your own taste, and people gravitate towards it.
I think that, when it comes to the podcast that I listen to when it comes to even the YouTube talkers that I listen to, I hate using the word guru, but the gurus that I listen to, it's the ones that aren't regurgitating what everybody else is saying. It's the ones that, stand out and on their own and have their own personality. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for real. And that's what gravitated you to me. And I think that I would love my listeners to take that away of this whole conversation. Love what you're getting into and just be you. I honestly think that's the best advice that you or I can give anybody out here. And you've already said it multiple times. But love what you're getting into and just be you, be genuine, and be the authority that you and only you can be. As long as you know one thing more than the person listening to you, you're going to do well.
Literally, at the end of the day, whether you're running a record company, producing a podcast, or selling pork bellies on Wall Street, it's all the same. You just surround yourself with people who make everything work better. Just get yourself a good support staff, people that encourage you, people that push you along, and you'll do fine. And believe me, there's a lot of surprises in life. That really things that happen that you never in a million years would expect to happen. And I think I'm a living testament of that, John. I wasn't smarter than anybody else. I wasn't better than anybody else. I just believed and followed my heart and what I loved and what I knew. And I just didn't give up. You fall down, you wipe yourself off, as I like to say, you wipe your brow and you just keep pushing forward and things materialize. And I hate to say this because a lot of people, do it for this reason. A lot of people do it for the money. You do it because you love it. Remember, money is the yardstick of how good you are of what you do. So if you're going to do good work and quality work, you're going to be rewarded for it. Stick with it.
Yeah, monetize yourself. Don't wait for YouTube to monetize you though. Don't do it because you're waiting on YouTube to pay you. If you want to pay your electric bill, maybe, sure, okay. But if you're looking to make real money, monetize yourself.
How does that work, John? I don't even know. You mentioned the word monetize. In other words, what is the criteria? What is the bar that you have to hit before you can even scratch that surface?
So we'll use YouTube since video is becoming the big thing. You know, podcasting has always been the audio platform, right? And you've got your Spotify's and your Apples and your iHearts and your Amazons. But let's just go the video side, because that's what everybody kind of knows right now. On the YouTube level, you have to have 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. And that's consecutive over a certain period of time. And that is the first level. That is not getting ad money. That is not getting, a red cent technically from YouTube, but it allows you to turn on, they call it super thanks, where you can get sponsors and people can, subscribe to, maybe you're going to put out specific content that's only maybe the behind the scenes of the podcast, where you're having the conversations that you didn't want to put out to the public, that you're going to give to, your paid subscribers to your channel. And then when you get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, that's when they turn on AdSense. Take the money, it's yours, and it's not going to be a lot at first. There is people that eventually are going to get to big money, and then they don't have to worry about everything else. But monetize yourself. A lot of people that I talk to coming into this are business people, right? They're mortgage brokers, they're accountants, they're people that have a business and they just want to utilize YouTube or podcasting to get their word out. And they're going to talk to clients that they've been successful with, or they're just going to sit there and talk about the latest trends in, the mortgage business or this or that. And you use that as what they call lead magnets, and you get the viewers and you get the people to trust you and you build the authority, and then they reach out to you and you build the relationship and they sign up. You're teaching them, or you're helping them, or maybe you're going to, become their mortgage broker or whatever. So that's why I say monetize yourself first, build your authority, build your audience. At the end of the day, there is YouTubers out there. There are podcasters out there who are making, and this is going to be a broad statement, but they're making more than YouTubers and podcasters with thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers, because they're not speaking to people they're not speaking with authority. They're not speaking to people who trust them enough to do business with them. They're speaking to everybody and they're not zoned in. So if you're looking to, like for you, Peter, and we're going to hopefully have you on my podcast with Crystal, and we're going to talk about your Pilates business. But, in your podcast, you bring up your Pilates stuff. You've got your authority. People are going, wow, yeah, he knows this person, this person, this. And by the way, I can learn Pilates from him. And, that's how a lot of people will monetize themselves. And the ad game. You've been in the music industry for years, and you know where the plugs are. And that's a perfect lead in, because I want you to do the good boyfriend thing. And if you've got her podcast name and everything kind of, and where people can find her, I'd love for you to plug your girlfriend's podcast.
It's in Estonian right now, but she's also working on English translation. And that was a question I was going to lead up to. Do you foresee anytime soon that maybe there'll be more languages added to some of these platforms where you can get a little bit? Estonian is a different language. I mean, there's no masculine or feminine in terms of speaking. If you're talking about a guy named Jack, you could say, well, she did this. And if you're talking about a woman named Jane and he did that, so it's a little tricky. What are your thoughts on that? And can you be any insight on that?
So yes, they're especially on the Riverside side, they're adding more languages for support. I don't know how soon Estonian language will be there as we spoke. It's a small, like, kind of unknown. I mean, as big as it is, it's small and kind of not normally thought of when people are thinking about language. But yes, I believe that should be coming. YouTube also has, for people who are looking for captions, there's probably way more auto captions. I don't like YouTube's, because if you're doing it through Riverside or a platform that you can control and actually make sure that AI picked up what you really meant, you can read through it. But yeah, as far as I'm hearing, there's in the works to add loads more. But for people who may understand Estonian, I tried to listen to some of her stuff, and that language is amazing to me, but I have no clue. But for anybody that
Yeah.
might be out there that doesn't know, do you want to plug it?
Yeah, her name is Annalie Urge, and you can just Google her and you'll find her on, she does a show here on Cuckoo Radio, which she does a podcast there, audio, and she just started the video podcast. And I'm really proud of her. I think she did some really, really great work, and she's doing it on her own. And, she's less tech savvy than me, and she picked it up. And credit has to be given where it's due. Riverside. I mean, it's user friendly. This is an unbelievable, unbelievable software package. I'm really, really excited about digging in on that. I
I
really am.
can't wait to help you dig into that, Peter.
Yeah.
And biggest thing for me, just to be able to sit here and make tutorials for people and help people and have these opportunities come my way, and it just be this big full circle thing where 4 years ago I didn't even want to do this. This was the furthest thing from my mind. And I'm a 311-pound guy sitting behind a computer playing with, Excel spreadsheets all day. And now I have this opportunity to sit here with you, a gentleman who's been in the industry for 30 plus years, and you to say the kind words and just share these stories with me and my listeners. And I think this is just a great start to something here with me and you and your podcast. And I just can't wait to see that launch. And, just honestly, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Don't thank
And
me, John. But I do have a question, okay?
yeah,
Because I know, but I think you could elaborate it on a little bit more. And I think it's important that the audience knows it too. Let's look at it realistically. You have Joe Rogan, who's extremely popular. He's got his Jamie behind the scenes doing things. Explain to me exactly what your function and what your business model is, what you can do, because I know Riverside has this other sector called producer series where you can chime into somebody's podcast and actually be the person behind the scenes producing it, which is an unbelievable idea and it's great. So explain to me how you fit into that world and what you're going to be offering, because this is a question that my girlfriend's very interested in hearing about too.
well, above and beyond what you already know, which is the Riverside coaching and helping with that. So, for people who don't know, I have one-on-one coaching with Riverside where I will walk you through the software literally like I'm teaching my grandma. You don't have to know how, as you lovingly said, your girlfriend didn't know how to point and click. You don't even need to know how to point and click. You just need to be able to follow instructions, and I dumb them down, and we'll teach you how to use the software from back to front. So you have no learning curve. The software is already, stupid simple, but I remove any hurdles from that. I offer, hourly training, up to a 5 session per, 1 hour each session. And the more sessions you book, the cheaper it gets, of course. But I do that regularly, and I've got a link in the description. And then I also have my Amplify program, and that's kind of what you were hinting on there. So what my Amplify program is somebody who's starting out, who's doesn't have the 30 years of experience in the industry, doesn't know where to begin. They don't know how to come up with a logo or where to even start. I'll be honest, I don't use technical software for that either. I'll walk you through Canva. Canva has a free version that you can do most of it in. And if we can't, I'll show you how the pro version works, and we can go through that, help you build your logo, help you build, come up with a great title, working title. And it's all yours, but I'm just walking you through and helping you through the process. Build out your entire show. We're going to talk about equipment, what I think is the easiest and simplest equipment. If you are somebody who's 30 plus years in the industry and you already know your equipment, I'm going to let you roll with what you got. But if you don't know, I'm going to walk you through what I know works, because I tried the cheap stuff. My wife bought me some equipment from the very beginning when I didn't want to do this, and I was, fighting it. But everybody kept saying, you have this story to, talk about. So I'm going to help you build everything, walk you through the entire process. And then when we get to the very end and I've shown you everything, and you look at me and you go, John, I love that it is so stupid simple, and I love what you just showed me, but Can you just do it for me and I can just show up and record? I offer that also. And that's what you were hinting on there also. With Riverside, especially, they have a great feature. First off, they have the producer feature, which is already built into their pro, their first level. And I can literally come in as the producer. And if you're doing a live stream and you want to make sure that, things are popping up on the screen, but you want to spend time listening to your guest or your co-host and actually engaging, and you don't want to think about all that stuff, I'll handle it. I'm going to make sure that our audio and everything's right and do a show with you and make sure that, looking at the meters, we're not peaking and everything sounds good. Help you run the entire show. Make sure at the end of the show, when we end, we don't do what me and you did the other day and leave too quick, hang out for a minute, talk, and let Riverside do its final uploads, because it is uploading in the background. Everything's recorded local. That's how you get the high quality 4K footage and the clean studio quality sound. And then at the end of that, if you've got the editor version, which is a paid add-on, I am your editor and I'll jump right in, and
That's top tier, right? Now, I think it comes with
no, you can do that from the pro. You can, right from the very first paid one, you can add that in. And it might be 130 something a year. It's like a fraction of what the actual, software costs. And it gives me a back end. I don't get any access to your credit card. I don't get any access to any of your personal information. I just get access to your recordings. And I go in, do the full edits. You can go in and take a look at what I've done, send me notes back and forth. I like this, but I don't like this. And we can do that whole thing. And then at the end, I can even go as far as, and that's depending on my client, if you want to give me credentials, I can post everything. We'll set it up together, whether or not I'm going to do it for you or not, but I'll help you set up a YouTube channel, help you set up wherever Riverside has a great feature where you can publish right through Riverside and they'll host your podcast audio and video to YouTube. I use Spotify for creators. I'm waiting on that one little piece so I can switch over to Riverside. If you're starting from scratch, you'll never know that piece is missing. And we could go right through Riverside and it's all right there. We upload it and good to go. If not, I can post it there. If you want your magic clips and I go in and I do some tweaks to what Riverside's already giving you, it takes a few minutes and I can make them, engaging and everything for you. Basically, if you don't already have a podcast out to Spotify or all these places and you're starting from scratch, you wouldn't even know the piece that I'm waiting on from Riverside. But once that piece is there, I'm going to be switching over to them. But I do the entire process for you, so you don't have to from beginning to end. Or at minimum, you'll know how to do it all on your own. And the great thing with Riverside is they make it stupid simple. I do try when it comes to, coaching, I do as many of those a week as I can because I enjoy that and it's fun. But when it comes to the production side and doing the full package with Amplify, I only allow myself 3 clients at a time. So if I'm maxed out, I won't take additionals. And that is because for myself and my sanity and the whole philosophy that I live by, which is living 95. And if you ever want to know about that, you can check out my podcast, Health, Tech, and Wellness podcast that I do with Crystal. But at the end of the day, I do it for myself, my sanity, and so I can give my clients the best, of me that they're going to get. And I don't believe in taking on 50 other clients.
So you make people priority then, in other words.
100%. Yeah. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, because I've looked into it when I was early on, there's people out there who say that, hey, yeah, we're going to do one-on-one coaching. And when you sign up, you quickly realize that the guy you've been watching on YouTube is not the guy coaching you. He's got a team because he's grown way too big. Look, I'm not looking to make millions. I'm just looking so that way I can help people out and pay my bills. That's it. So I allot 3 full-on production clients. But the coaching piece, I'll do as many as I can fit into a day. They're hour at a time, and I allot, typically 15 to 30 minutes between that I'll let people book. I have booking links that are in my bio, so you can check that out. Or you can, if you just want to know everything from the beginning, you can go to living95.com and just follow along, and you'll learn why I do what I do, where I started from, and you can learn about my Amplify program that I offer. And then you follow even further. I've got the Riverside piece. Most people come to me for, they need to learn it all. Help me design everything from the scratch.
You mentioned before that Riverside's a relatively new company. What's their history? How long have they been around?
So I don't have 100% facts on this. I have what I remember. And from what I remember, they started really big during COVID because everybody, the podcast world was shook up, and almost, well, even your radio world, your TV world, everybody was shook up, and everybody moved to Zoom, which is, reliant on internet. It's reliant on the features or the bandwidth, right? So you're getting poor quality, you're getting terrible sound quality, and you're recording it, which is fine, but nothing was recording locally. And at the end of the day, you were still getting the entertainment and the things that you needed, but you weren't getting great quality. And Nadav and his brother said, look, we can do this better. And they built Riverside around that fact. We're going to record locally on your device. It's a temporary recording in the catch of, Chrome or Edge if you're using, a PC. And when it's done, the catch will clear and you're good to go. And it's uploading in the background as you're recording. And the great thing is you get studio quality audio and video the entire time. And at the end, you got all that raw tracks that you can edit and put out a great product. But I believe, you know what, let me pull that up while we're here, because I don't want to give bad information, but I'm 90% sure it was all during COVID. Yeah. Basically right at the beginning of 2020. They released on March 2020, which is the peak of COVID, and everybody was kind of shutting down.
They just finished their 6-year anniversary.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And the founder, the whole story is phenomenal. If you go on YouTube, you can go into their YouTube channel. And I did this one day, and it was kind of cool to see how far they've come in 6 years. But if you reverse sort their videos to the oldest, there's a couple videos right at the very beginning, which is Nadav and his brother, and they're just talking about what they just built. And it's two guys who, and they'll tell you why. What I just told you.
I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, it's impressive because you see the software now, and I see what's coming. Then watch that. It's such an amazing thing, because originally they said, well, we just want to help you record it. There's all kinds of things out there to edit it. And then they realized, by working with people like me, who at the end of the day, that KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, means a lot to me. I'm not a producer. I've not been in the music industry for 30 years. I didn't start when I was 20, going right into this stuff and learning it. I'm watching YouTube videos on, Final Cut and Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, and I'm pulling my hair out. I'm like, what the? If you watch one of my YouTube videos, I kind of make fun of it, right? And then I tripped over Riverside and just made it so simple. And the reason why I do what I do is because at the end of the day, you're getting into it because you really want to do it. But you get frustrated and you're not going to get monetized right away. And your first couple of videos might go out to, like you said, 3 people.
John, any advice it's a lot of people view, but they don't hit that subscribe button. They don't hit that like button. Is there a way to capture that?
So I'll tell you this, I'm a firm believer, and I do put, the little subscribe button on my videos, but I'm a firm believer in, I use the video cluster method, okay? And that is this. I want you to watch more than one of my videos. So I'm going to build a cluster of videos, or I'm going to build a cluster of episodes that are going out to the masses that are going to be kind of piggybacked off of each other. And they're not going to be repeats, but they're going to kind of be in the same genre, same little micro niche. You have your big niche, like for you, the music industry in that world, but you're going to have the micro niches. You're going to be talking to the producers, and you're going to be talking to the artists. So once you get a few of those out there, that's going to grow you faster than somebody hitting that subscribe button. But now let me answer your next question. How do you get them to hit that subscribe button? We've said it multiple times in this call, Peter. Be you. Because here, I can, at the beginning of my video, I can say, by the way, subscribe. I don't know, Peter. Okay, you told me you might even open with a not a good hook. You might just introduce, hey, by the way, thanks for, tuning in today. I'm Peter Napoliello, and I'm, hook me first. Tell me why I want to watch. I don't know Peter. I don't care about knowing Peter. I want to know, why am I going to watch this? Oh, I've got on today John Bon Jovi, and we're going to talk about, I'm hooked. Now they get to know you, your interview style, the person they watch, and the very next video or very next, episode, if they're listening on, audio, you're interviewing a producer who produced, John Bon Jovi or whatever. And now they're hooked and they've listened. Now, at the end of the video where you say subscribe, or on the audio where you're saying, hey, by the way, if you want to support me, hit that subscribe button. Now they're bought in. To me, I've watched so many videos where at the very beginning they say, and subscribe. I don't even listen to that because I don't know you first. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing is build your value. Let your listener, let your viewer know you first.
What do you think about using other platforms to get them to gravitate towards YouTube? For instance, Facebook and Instagram stories, or TikTok shorts, or things like that, with the link that pushes them over to the YouTube.
So yes, I believe in all of that. And I think all of them work. I'll tell you the first thing, do not do. Okay. Your friends and family are going to be your worst enemy. Okay. Here's why. They're going to watch, or they're going to listen because you asked them to. They probably are going to hit that subscribe button, and that's going to be the worst thing in the world, because every algorithm, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Apple, Spotify, whatever, the algorithm, if somebody subscribes, they're the first people to see when you put out new anything. So new video, new audio, whatever, they're the first people to see it. And the algorithm's going to look at this. Out of the people who are subscribed to John, or who subscribed to Peter, did they watch that next video? Did they listen to that next audio production or that next podcast? Oh, they didn't click on it. Oh, this one must not be that good. And then it doesn't really send it back out to the masses. So the people you want to subscribe are the people who are bought into you. And that's why I go back to what I said earlier. Build your authority first. Build that audience of people who trust, like, and want to see more of you. And then, yes, let them hit subscribe, because that's going to help you get monetized and all that fun stuff that you want, and have the numbers. So maybe you can get, add, people to sponsor you and sponsor dollars and all that stuff. So you need those numbers and you need all that stuff. So when people are trying to reach out to you, or you're trying to shop yourself, but at the end of the day, that subscriber who clicked subscribe and never watches you again is more of a detriment to you than the person who watches 1, 2, 3 videos, if that makes sense.
It does.
I learned it the hard way.
How's that?
I told so my podcast channel, the channel that you found me on is growing like mad fire, and my family doesn't have a clue about it. I've not told a single soul. It's just going out to people like you who want to hear about it. My podcast with Crystal that I've been growing for a while now, I'm about to outpace it. Now, it's a different topic and a different subject, but when I first put it out, I said, hey, guys, because I was new, I didn't know. Hey, guys, hey, can you just jump on, subscribe, watch a couple of videos, tell me what you think about it, blah, blah, blah. some of them might come back and watch it because they might go, oh, here's a new, oh, okay, this might be cool. I'll watch it, or I'm bored. But they don't care. They were just doing it to support you. Don't tell a soul. Put it out to the world and let the algorithm do its thing.
How about content in terms of episodes? Weekly, bi-weekly? How do you see fit?
Whatever's not going to burn you out.
Yeah.
I would say 4 a week minimum, probably, just so you can build your audience and people can expect you. I say if you can put it out regularly, whatever that schedule is, especially if it's going to be a podcast or like a serial, I say, have a set time, a set day that it comes out. But here's the great thing. When you're first starting out, people don't know that schedule. You might even list it on your description in, YouTube or Spotify or whatever, but nobody knows. So at the beginning, you're just learning and you miss a week or whatever, don't flip out. It's okay. But I recommend at least weekly for a month. Well, some months have 5. Above and beyond that, if you can crank out 1 a day, God bless you. You're a superhuman, and radio stations have a team for a reason.
Yeah.
You're starting out as a solo person. If you could do 2 a week, great. But I would say at minimum would be 52 a month or a year. I mean,
do you think it's important to be uniform? And what I mean by that is 1 hour, 2 hours, 40 minutes, or can you vary on each individual one? Can you do a half-hour monologue, let's say, and then do a 1-hour interview, et cetera? Or should you really stay to a specific format?
Well, I'll tell you this, Peter, and this is going to be a live experiment because this is probably going to be the longest video on this channel that we're doing this interview on. But I'll tell you this. I will say whatever time is not rambling, whatever time is giving value to your audience, whatever that takes, use it. If it's a 10-minute video, in 10 minutes, you got out the information that the people needed, and at minute 11, you're kind of rambling and you're going to lose people anyway, I would rather you put out a 10-minute video that gets 100% viewed versus a 20-minute video that only gets 50% viewed.
Gotcha.
So whatever time is needed to be allotted to get that point across, to tell that story. Once you've done that, you're golden. If you're going to look at a lot of metrics. Number one, I want to go back to the social media piece here in a minute, but number one, while I've got this, whether it's YouTube or Apple or Spotify or any of those, give yourself once a week to look at your metrics, to look at the numbers. How am I doing? Do not do the trap that everybody does. You're going to do it. Even though I'm giving you this advice, you're still going to do it, but don't even put the app on your phone. Don't put the YouTube Studio app on your phone, because you're going to sit there, you're going to upload a video, and for the next 24 hours, you're going to open it up every 30 minutes and go, do I got a new view? Do I got a new view? You're going to drive yourself nuts.
Of course.
A lot once a week to go in and just see. You need those numbers. They help you to understand, okay, this one took off. What can I learn from this video? Learn from it and move on. Use it, catch fire while it's hot, but don't sit there and dwell on it. Let me go back to the social media piece. Yes, I believe being present on social media is good, but there's a fine tooth comb here, and this is kind of something that I'm testing right now. I was doing TikTok, also doing short form. I do a morning motivational video that I kind of stopped for a minute because I want to check something. Because I also think that some of these, TikTok does not want you to leave TikTok. TikTok does not want you to click a link and go to YouTube. TikTok wants you to stay on TikTok. YouTube wants you to stay on YouTube. Facebook, we can keep going down the path. Is it good to put it out there so people see? Yes, but inevitably, find your bread and butter. Okay, if your bread and butter is going to be your podcast, long-form content, here's what matters. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Spreaker, whatever you're putting that long form out onto. Those short form clips, you could do that on YouTube, but you can put them out there. Put them out there. People can find you there. But do I think that they truly, in the end of the day, help? Yes, if you're if you're Jelly Roll, or if you're John Bon Jovi, or if you're AC/DC, or, you name it. Okay. And you've got name power, and you say, hey, by the way, and there's a short clip of your podcast that you just started. Okay. Robert Downey Jr. starts a podcast. Never did one before. He's doing it from his den in his house. And he puts out a short form video on every piece of social media that he's on. And he says, by the way, click this link right here to watch the full thing on YouTube, or to listen to the full thing on Spotify. That, I guarantee, is going to drive a ton to that. If you have a social media presence that's already built and you've got a good following, sure, 100% put it out there. Don't start a Facebook channel or a TikTok or something to advertise for your brand new this that nobody cares who you are. I don't think it's going to help you. I don't think anybody's going to leave, because TikTok's not there to send you to YouTube. It's not there to send you anywhere else. It's to keep you there. You said you're getting into AI. I'm going to ask you this, and you've probably seen this because I see it. You're working on a project and you're using, say, ChatGPT to help you, do some research or whatever. Did you ever notice at the very end, it says, and by the way, if you really want to go a little further, we can do this. It doesn't even want you to leave it.
Yeah, very true. It's like if you want to hang up the phone, the person keeps talking and talking. Another question, demographic breakdown. It seems TikTok is skewed towards kids. YouTube, do you feel that it has the upper demo watching YouTube for news pieces and things like that? Facebook seems to be boomer, Instagram seems to be Gen Zers, and TikTok seems to be young up and comers.
I think you hit it on the head. I think that you have a demographic that kind of merges on all of them. But yeah, I think you hit it on the head. For long form, though, if you're making long form content, yes, you're going to make the clips and you're going to put them out there on, Reels or YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever. But if you're creating long form content, which is what we're primarily talking, podcasts, and just even if you're just doing, tutorial videos, I would concentrate primarily on YouTube. And there's actually a talk right now, and YouTube is trying its best to squash it, but there's a talk right now that even short form might be hurting your long form videos, because there's two different demographics there, right? So if I put a bunch of short form clips of my podcast on my same channel that my long form is on, I may gain 1,000 subscribers from those short form videos that'll never watch a 20-minute, 30-minute, hour-long interview or podcast. So those are, again, followers that the algorithm sends that long form piece out to that are not going to click. And then it goes, ooh, who do I send this to now? Right. So there's a conversation going on right now in the Reddit groups and places where I'm at. And I think I might even do it myself. I may never delete a video, but I may unlist all of my short form on my podcast channel and create a YouTube Shorts channel for my podcast that points to my podcast, but all of my shorts go here. It'll be the Health, Tech, and Wellness Shorts channel. And all of my clips, all of my morning motivationals, all that stuff will go there. And my long form will go here. And they will point towards each other. But a subscriber on this that is used to just sitting there mind-numbingly scrolling, and, oh, man, that was pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, I like that, motivational thing that John just said. Subscribe. But then they pick up their YouTube and they're looking and they go, oh, yeah, I don't have 20 minutes to watch his stupid podcast, but, oh, shorts. So there is conversation right now talking about demographic that you should probably put your shorts on a separate channel. I don't know if this is going to pan out or not. I'm about to experiment it myself.
All right.
So it'll be a live experiment.
That's good.
Well, awesome, Peter. I thank you so much, man. And again, this has been, just a full circle moment for me. 4 years ago, I thought this, man. I actually, this wasn't even in the talks 4 years ago. I was a dying man who found a way to fix himself, to find a way to live a happy, healthy life, balanced life, consistent things, build systems to help my health, save my life, start a podcast, take that podcast and turn it again to helping other creators to not get burned out while you're building your podcast, to having you reach out on a Elgato teleprompter tutorial unboxing video. And now we're sitting here talking, and this has just been a great opportunity and a full circle moment.
You're a good man, John Adams, and you're a good friend. I'm glad I met you, and I'm glad it was Riverside and this prompter issue that brought us together. And I look forward to doing your other podcast too. And of course, we'll keep in touch. And if you want to hear some good music, or your listeners want to hear good music, you can navigate over to Mixcloud and type in or search Mindbender, Peter Napoliello. And I think you'll enjoy the shows there too. Some nice music, a little bit different. And definitely a cornucopia of great music from all genres, from all decades.
I'll also throw that in the description
Yeah,
for
I'd love
this
that. I
episode.
appreciate that.
And then what I would love is, once you're up and running, because I think this is just the beginning of a huge journey that you're about to embark on. Once your podcast is up, I would love for us to, just a 5-10 minute video just to get back together, maybe even on your side, and just, cross, promote each other and get that out there. Because I think at the end of the day, you're going to have a huge listener base really quick. I don't want to have you over hype yourself up, but I really do, because you're going to be talking about some stuff that I'm interested in, and I've never been in that world.
Oh, it's going to be,
So
I'm going to really unveil a lot of crazy stuff. And believe me, a lot of people say they have a book. I have an encyclopedia, and half the stuff I don't even remember. It's through conversations. All of a sudden, an old memory will come up, and it's tagged to an unbelievable, funny story. That's why I would never be able to write a book, because I don't remember it all. I have to be in the middle of a conversation that sparks, oh, yeah, and this happened, and that happened. But a lot of great stuff, and informative stuff, and just good, wholesome fun, and some salacious stuff, too.
Awesome. I just want to thank our listeners and our viewers for taking the time to watch this. Again, check out amplify.living95.com if you're interested in starting this journey. You can also check out my one-on-one Riverside coaching that I offer there. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. Peter, again, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
I'm going to be honest right now. Conversations like that, those are full circle moments for me. They remind me why I started doing this in the first place. You just heard from someone who spent over 30 years behind the scenes working with some of the biggest names in the world. And if there's one thing that stood out to me, it's this. None of it happened overnight. It wasn't luck. It wasn't shortcuts. It was showing up over and over again and not quitting when things got hard. So if you're sitting here right now thinking about starting something, a podcast, a YouTube channel, or a business, whatever it is, let this be your sign. Start messy, start small, but just start, because you never know who's watching or who might be listening, or where one moment can actually take you. I appreciate you all being here, and I'll see you in the next one.